Confidence in your own judgment actually increases your risk of being manipulated. Today I'm going to show you exactly why the most self-aware, analytical, emotionally intelligent people are most often the people that end up in manipulative dynamics, backed by neuroscience, psychology, and my years of living in these dynamics. If you've watched my 7 signs of manipulation video, or you've just recognized manipulation yourself, then you're probably sat with the same question that I was sat with, which is, why would this happen to you? Because the pattern almost nobody names is that it often happens to the people you'd least expect. The people that are the sharpest in the room, who can read a person from a mile away, the person that you always go to for advice. That contradiction feels like it should be impossible, but it's the mechanism. So once you understand how it works, the question stops being, why would it happen to me? And the answer starts being, of course it would happen to someone like me. Why it happens to smart people. The confidence paradox. Let's start with the thing nobody wants to admit.
Research on metacognition consistently finds that people who rate themselves as highly capable of detecting deception are no better at detecting it than anyone else. Overconfidence in your own judgment actively increases vulnerability because it lowers your guard.
The more certain you are that you'd see it coming, the less likely you are to admit it when it happened. So the gap between who you think you are and what's happened to you is so huge. That's where the shame lives, and that's what keeps people quiet. Empathy and emotional intelligence, the traits that get weaponized. People assume both keep you safe, but that's not always what happens.
A study from the University of Michigan found that manipulative people and empathetic people are equally skilled at reading emotions. The difference is what they do with that skill. Empathetic people are more likely to accept unfair treatment. The same capacity that allows you to feel another person's pain also makes you more willing to see reason for it, more reluctant to assert yourself, and more easily made to feel responsible for someone else's distress.
Emotional intelligence runs on the same wiring. You see and understand their pain, so you take responsibility for it and you give more than you should. You can see their perspective and then you lose sight of your own. And in the hands of a skilled manipulator, your emotional intelligence becomes the most effective tool. If you are a highly empathetic person, then you are very generous, and your generosity is what gets targeted. Trauma bonding, why it takes so long to see it. This is the one that changes everything, because people always ask, why didn't you just leave? Nobody understands what it does to the mind. You're constantly scanning their mood. You're rationalizing the bad moments and holding up the good ones as a representation of who they really are. And you're always defending them to other people while you're falling apart privately. The reason why people don't leave is because their nervous system doesn't usually let them. And that was the same for me. It took me quite a while to see, and through my healing work, as soon as I did see, I left.
Researchers Donald Dutton and Susan Painter documented traumatic bonding in 1981, the powerful emotional attachment that forms in relationships of intermittent abuse. The cycling between harm and warmth is the mechanism itself.
What is happening in your body during that cycle?
During fear, criticism, or punishment, cortisol and adrenaline flood your system. Your nervous system enters threat response. And then when the warmth returns, the apology, the affection, the moment where they seem like the person you know, dopamine and oxytocin are released. The same neurochemicals as reward and bonding. Your body reads that hot and cold cycle as addiction. The highs are chemically real. The withdrawal when the warmth disappears is chemically real.
Research describes this cycle as behavioral addiction in its neurological structure. If you grew up in an environment where high pressure or criticism was normal, where love was conditional, authority was never questioned, then your nervous system learnt early what closeness feels like. And when you become an adult, and you come across the same sort of patterns, your nervous system confuses that as safe. Ask yourself if what you're calling safe is actually just familiar. Your nervous system can't always tell the difference until you teach it how. Cognitive dissonance, why you resolved the evidence in their favour. So then you face the impossible choice. Accept that this person has harmed you, or discount all of the evidence.
Neuroscience shows that love literally suppresses activity in the prefrontal cortex, the region responsible for evaluating someone's character and making rational judgments. When a belief is tied to your identity, the brain will preferentially protect that belief over updating it.
You're in denial because it is neurologically easier than the alternative. Research describes this as your brain choosing to change its perspective rather than to believe that someone you love has harmed you. The escalation pattern. Nobody walks into a manipulative dynamic all at once. It escalates slowly, each step only slightly different from the last. The gap, when looking back, feels absolutely huge, but in the moment, every single step feels manageable, survivable, even normal. This is how it works. The early stages of manipulation are almost always hard to differentiate from intensity, devotion, and high standards. And by the time the dynamic has shifted significantly, you're already deeply invested. Deeply invested people don't leave easily because the cost of leaving feels greater than the cost of staying. Shame. Why nobody talks about it? Nobody talks about any of this because of shame.
Research on victimization disclosure, published in the journal PMC, found that shame is the primary reason people don't speak about manipulation and abuse. It becomes the quiet, private kind of experience you carry alone, because you don't want to become someone's example of what not to be, or perhaps out of fear of being wronged, or fear of what they might do if they find out.
My recent videos have already tested this fear directly. One of my old spiritual teachers went around me and messaged my mother directly, and he's trying to silence me. For now, I know this. The fear is real and it is survivable. Shame makes you want to disappear. And the more self-aware you are, the bigger that shame will be, because the gap between your self-image and what's happened to you is so wide. And the smarter you consider yourself to be, the more that gap costs you. I couldn't explain every facet of what's happened to me, and some of that only belongs to me. But nobody talks about this part, and I think somebody should. So here's what I want to leave you with. Trust the trends and not the moments. Like I always say, one good week doesn't make up for 6 bad months. Look at the overall direction of how you feel about yourself over time. Be brave and talk to someone outside of this dynamic. Say it out loud to someone who isn't invested and hear yourself say it. And often this clarifies a lot more than your private internal analysis. If something feels consistently wrong, it doesn't matter how many reasons you have for misreading it. Your nervous system knows. Recognizing a dynamic for what it is and choosing yourself is the most significant thing you can do. And it usually takes more courage than staying. And recovery takes longer than most people would expect. So if you've been in a dynamic like this, then your reality needs some time to recalibrate. That's the normal aftermath of being in an abnormal situation. Understanding the mechanism doesn't undo what happened. It does create self-compassion by replacing the story that you have where you were careless, blind, stupid, or simply asking for it, with the truth. Your nervous system was doing exactly what it was meant to do, and you were just responding to a system that was built to bypass your protection. It wasn't your fault. If you want to see where this started for me, then go and watch my Who Do You Think You Are video, or alternatively my 7 Signs of Manipulation video. And if you're interested on finding out how this text message to my mum worked out, then that will be in my video called How Spiritual Language is Used to Control People. I will be making a lot more videos about manipulation, about ADHD, neuroscience, and spirituality. So if that's something that you're interested in, then definitely hit subscribe. Definitely subscribe. Anyways, thank you so much and take care.